He's Bo Ryan, Wisconsin head coach. He joins us on the Dan Patrick Show. Do you follow any other sports while the basketball season's going on, Coach?
Dan, I do a little, but that's dangerous. Being a Philly area guy, it's hard to not root for the Eagles and the Phillies and the Sixers and Flyers. So, I follow a little bit, but not quite the same when I coached in high school out there or taught in high school. So it's a little different.
Which of those teams breaks your heart more often?
Well, recently the Sixers.
Well, there's no mystery now with them.
Well, having been a big Wilt Chamberlain guy growing up and watching the 67 team and in the 60s there, Boston broke our hearts several times, but at least we had something to root for. And then Moses Malone and his team came along in the 80s, so we had something. The Eagles, unfortunately, the last national championship that they won back in '60, my dad and I actually attended that game. So I did have a chance in person to see the last Eagles championship. And the Phillies have been pretty good.
Yeah.
They've lately, I know they were very frustrating when I was younger, especially in '64 when I was a junior in high school, when they blew the lead, which to say blew the lead, I guess it was of historic proportions. But the St. Louis people were happy.
Yeah. He's Bo Ryan, Wisconsin head basketball coach, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. We had Frank Kaminsky on last week. I love the oddity of him. He just, he's a big guy who can play outside. He's quirky, has fun. It's almost like if he could stay another year, he'd stay another year at Wisconsin.
You're right. He is different, but a pleasant difference surrounds him and how it affects his teammates and everybody else. He just has a demeanor that's hard to explain. I've never had one totally like this, and I've had some very interesting players personality-wise because I coached a lot of engineers at the University of Wisconsin-Platteville in my Division III days. And some of those guys were kind of interesting as far as how they analyze things. But Frank is unique, but there isn't a guy in America that wouldn't want to play with Frank Kaminsky.
What role do you play in getting him ready for the NBA?
Well, we're facilitators in that, part of it's the mental aspect of making sure you bring it every day, but with him you never have to worry about that. His footwork, all the drills that we've done defensively and offensively, we kind of teach our bigs and our smalls a lot of the same things because of the offense that we run. And he picked up all the outside nuances of footwork and shot fakes and, not just with his back to the basket. So our staff has done a great job of working with guys like him and other bigs that we've had over the years in developing their footwork and their consciousness of what to do in the post when you get the ball and to feel comfortable out on the perimeter when you have the ball also.
John Calipari gets criticized a lot for the one-and-dones, but do you go after those kids who went to Kentucky? Did you recruit any of those guys who we expect to be one-and-done?
I don't think we got in the door with any of them, so I can say right to the point, no.
But would you go after a one-and-done if you thought, okay, he's great, but he's only going to be here for 6 months?
Well, yeah, because sometimes guys think they're going to do that, and then they're in school 3 or 4 years. So it isn't quite, if you go into any neighborhood where there's a good basketball player, there's his buddies around him saying, let's see, how about if I'm going to be the driver of your Mercedes after you get your first contract? So some of these guys have their buddies already lined up for the posse that's going to hang around them when they get their big check, and then they don't get the big check. They don't go into the league after one and done. So sometimes in the college you're dealing with egos and people that just feel, well, this is automatic because I was told I was a good high school player. But there's a lot more to it. So what John's done is a good job of making sure that he challenges those guys. And, of course, in practice they're challenged every day because they have so many of them. You know, they have the number 1 ranked team in the country, Kentucky Blue, and the number 2 ranked team in the country, Kentucky White. So their practices are pretty good.
You're going to soft sell your chances, I'm sure, until, if you got that chance, then you would, you'd love that opportunity. But, yeah, I think everybody looks at Kentucky. It's Kentucky or the rest of the field. Do you view it that way?
Well, I think anytime you go through the season undefeated, you have to be considered the favorite. And that's not to get a plug in for a couple teams that I had the opportunity to coach in Division III that went through the season undefeated. Yeah, you got the target on your back. You've already produced in 30 games or 28 games or 30-some games. So now you're expected to produce in all the tournament games. So, yes, Kentucky has put themselves in a great position to run the table.
I'm also I was watching BYU against Gonzaga last night, and you know what, Coach? It was enjoyable. There was movement. They took the threes, but they passed it. They cut it. There was just movement with basketball. Where has the offensive part of college basketball gone?
Well, sometimes you just have guys that want to pound it too much and keep it in one spot. I've always kept a record of the guys who dribble the most in one area without moving, and so I have a former player with 9, and Sam Decker almost broke his record when he was a freshman here. He had 8 and then picked it up and passed it. It's not what you're saying in practice; it's what you're emphasizing. So those coaches out there, those teachers, those staffs. It's all about getting them to buy into fluidity. I'll screen for you. You screen for me. I'll ball fake here. You go there. Just trying to always keep the defense on their heels.
Could Loyola Marymount work again, Coach?
Well, I think that if a school could get the depth to be able to do that, I think there are some guys who could be successful because they would be willing to accept turnovers along with the points of some balls sailing out of the gym. And I actually played against Paul Westhead's Cheltenham teams when I was in high school in Chester. And it's kind of interesting to see how that all developed. And could there be another team like that? Sure.
I noticed the odd drills you have with your players before you played Minnesota on that court where they have the raised floor and you're having them try to save balls as they go out of bounds.
Yeah, because the first time I went up there as an assistant coach in the 70s, the players were all talking about how scary that was to, hey, coach, what if I fall off? What if I don't know if I can save a ball? So I've filed that away, and then when I got to be a head coach at Wisconsin and took teams up there, I said, all right, let's slide, let's save a ball, slide off the floor, and here's how you land. And no one's been hurt yet.
You should have done the drill.
I think I did on the first one. Or I used the I got a doctor's note.
Yeah, I'm watching these freshmen dive, and they're falling off the floor. Didn't Minnesota's floor used to be even higher up back in the 70s?
I can't remember. It probably seemed that way because of the first impression that you get when you're there. But we were so busy trying to figure out how to guard Michael Thompson and Kevin McHale and all those guys back in the 70s, I forgot what it was like.
Did you know McHale was going to be anywhere near what he turned out to be in the pros?
I thought so because of his wingspan, his length. And a lot of people weren't talking about wingspan back in the 70s. That's become a big thing more recently, decade-wise. But Kevin McHale would get rebounds and do some things where you said, "Holy smokes, that's not human."
Well, they had Michael Thompson, Kevin McHale. Didn't they have Jim Peterson?
Yeah, they had Peterson. They had Randy Brewer. They had kind of, there's one of those Minnesota guys, I won't mention which one, but came down for a visit to Madison, and it was this kind of a weekend. It was a toga party on a Friday night. It was Halloween on Saturday night, and Halloween in Madison is really crazy. And then the next morning was the marijuana rally at the Capitol near the hotel where he was staying. So when he got back to his little town in Minnesota, he declared for Minnesota.
He couldn't handle the party and atmosphere?
No, it was too much. Too much for him.
Were you at the marijuana rally?
No, I skipped that one.
You did? But you were at the toga party.
No, I missed that one, too. I couldn't find a toga.
Well, good luck with the Big Ten, the rest of the Big Ten here, and good luck going into the tournament.
Dan, thank you. I appreciate
Good to talk to you again, Bo. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, that's Coach Ryan.